I'm just speaking from a place of realism of you don't know what is going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
You don't know what you've projected for your life or what you've held onto or what you have said that is going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. There is this mystery. There is this element of life outside. And if you hold on to such an ideal, it's where you can become hugely depressed. It's where you can become so despondent with life because you become so disappointed.
Hello and welcome to the Go Encourage podcast, where I talk to real people about real life, trying to gain some insights from their experiences building courage. Before we get started, I just want to encourage you to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. It really helps the channel grow and it helps me to bring more guests onto the podcast. You can also do the same on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and Amazon with a like and a follow. And if you're looking for links to social media channels, you can find them at www.goencourage.com. You can also grab a copy of the Courage Journal, which is a 31-day prompted journal designed to help you build courage in your life. All right, with all that said, let's bring on my next guest and let's see where the conversation goes. So Sarah, welcome to the Go Encourage podcast. It's an absolute honour to have you here today.
Thank you for having me as well, Rix.
You're very welcome. On my first ever podcast, I asked this question just off the top of my head, and it's, what does your name mean? And that's become a tradition on this podcast to ask every guest what their name means. So the first question is, what does your name mean, Sarah?
So my name means princess or queen to the world.
Ooh, queen to the world. Powerful.
Yeah, Hebrew.
Yeah, like that. I had a little look up as well, and it says woman of high rank.
There you go.
Which aligns with what you're saying there.
Yeah, so my parents named us all intentionally.
Right.
All of us three girls, and that was the biblical root and meaning of that name.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. Do you feel like, looking back at your life, you think that you've behaved in that way?
I laugh at that question because if my mother and I are ever in an intense conversation or she's observing certain behaviours of mine, she goes, I named you well. So yes, most definitely. Yeah.
Amazing. Go mum. Go mum. Where are you originally from, Sarah?
Hounslow. West London.
Down the road.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. Whereabouts in Hounslow, if you don't mind me asking?
So parents are still there. So Hounslow's not massive.
True.
Wow, the borough is.
It depends what you mean by massive.
I know. Well, that's what we're famous for, isn't it? So no, but the area of Hounslow I live in is just quite central. Well, I grew up in was quite central Hounslow.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I grew up in Southall, so not far away.
Not far at all.
And Hounslow High Street was where you'd go, to go shopping and hang with your crew and get up to mischief. Yeah. Yeah.
That'll be our flow after school.
Absolutely. All right. And then can you share a bit about your family background? You mentioned your mum there.
Yeah. So daughter of three girls, oldest. Mm-hmm. My parents moved to Hounslow just before I was born. So they still live there.
Where were they from?
Essex.
Oh, Essex. Okay.
Yeah. Right. They were from Essex. And then they moved to set up a church because my dad was a church pastor. Mm-hmm. My mother was a teacher for her whole career.
Wow.
And so I was a pastor's kid.
Your pastor's child.
Pastor's child.
And a princess.
Oh, yeah.
Oof.
Oldest of three girls as well. So
you're the eldest
the
as well?
Stereotypes often flow. Pastor's kid, oldest one. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you feel like you were the responsible one?
Oh, no. I was the rebellious one. I was the one who caused all the trouble.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Led the other two in that direction, maybe.
Tried to, but ultimately I think what they did was they looked at what I did and went, I'm not going to do that. So they actually, both of them turned out very sensibly in comparison. Yeah, I broke all the rules and they saw the reactions and went, let's go this way.
Right, okay. Well, you can take credit for that, right?
Totally.
Showing them
so
what
I
not
did
to
teach
do.
them.
Yeah, you did.
Great role model.
So you're welcome, Mum.
Yeah,
Dad.
exactly. Made your life easier after me.
And what was the dynamics you grew up with then, having a pastor for a dad?
Yeah, so it was an interesting upbringing. I loved it. It was very community-led, very connected to where we grew up. I can remember when I was a child, like our house would be used for gatherings all the time. Mm-hmm. We had a room downstairs that was where like homeless people or people who've been domestic abused and were connected to the church could live. And that did massively impact how I see the world and my value system and the way that I operate. I highly value human connection and relating to others. And I know that massively came from watching my parents model that consistently and have an open home and open heart. Just for the community and everyone around them. There was definitely an element of service and sacrifice that was hugely valued. And yet the most incredible memories I remember of my dad, like my entrepreneurship journey, people say, where did it start? It was doing the tuck shop with him at the boys ministry that he ran in a church. And some of my funnest memories and connecting times were all around these elements. It was a very protected upbringing. And I think with such strong belief systems and values around you, there's an own personal journey that you can choose to go on to actually understand the world in a more open-minded and I would say truly holistic way, which I definitely went on in latter years, but as a foundation for life and living with others. I'm hugely grateful, firstly, for the place of growing up in Hounslow. I was one of 4 white people in my class in school. So that was just incredible in terms of cultural diversity and understanding of others and difference. And then being part of a space where the action of love and outworking love for another was highly, highly valued. I don't wish for another upbringing.
Amazing. Just picking a couple of things from there, did you say one of only 4 white people in your class, which I guess would give you an insight into what it's like to be a minority, funnily enough, as well. So that when you do go out into the big wide world, and, you know, the UK, it's very diverse, but it is predominantly white. You could see it from the other side as well when you're working with people of diverse, mixed backgrounds.
Yes, absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah, London's full of that.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
What school did you go to, just out of curiosity?
I went to Chatsworth, my junior school, and then the Green School.
Oh, the Green School. Yes.
And then Richmond College.
Okay. I was in Cranford.
Okay,
so
you're a little bit
more west. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, we heard of the Green School. Where all the princesses went.
Oh, yeah. Well, we were always connected to the Isleworth and Zion.
Right.
So that was our boys' school.
Right.
All girls. The Green School, all girls Church of England school.
Yeah.
Then we had our all boys' school around the corner.
Recommend it? Church of
all
England
girls school? Never.
No. Wait, the all girl part or the Church of England part or both?
I mean, the Church of England part, it wasn't so much drilled down into you. I just don't think that anything that has a one-sided representation is how the world operates.
Interesting.
So my parents chose to put us there because my mum was in academia, and academically at the time, statistically, women were said to do better, or girls were said to perform better in all girl environments.
Because you haven't got us teasing you and winding you
However,
up.
boys were said to do better in mixed environments.
Interesting.
So those were the stats at the time. And I mean, I have great friends, still some of them who I speak to today, but I do just think anything that is one dimension and it becomes a culture and a collective that's all ideological around one type of belief is not actually the real world.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So in terms of preparation for real life, which I think school, university, if you're going to do any of those things, we have to do school, but university, if you're going to do that, it should be looking at how can you be as open-minded as possible. So what environment do you need to place yourself in to be open-minded?
Yeah, really good.
And an all-girl environment is not that.
Right. Okay. Good to know. Like that. As a young girl, what was there a dream and ambition that you wanted to strive towards as you grew?
I don't remember being like, I want to be that. I want to do that. But what I do remember is definite traits of character that I still carry through today. So one of them was leadership. It was always seen in me from a really young age. I was the oldest of 3 girls, so I was definitely the boss of everything that we did.
Right.
And then in school went on to be like head girl, head prefect, always had these leadership positions leading others. Negotiation is another one I'm often reminded of. My mum jokes around. She's like, you're in the perfect job. You're doing the perfect thing. And I'm like, don't tell me. She's like, when you were 3 years old in nursery, on your school report, it just said Sarah has very good negotiation skills. And she turns around and says, you always knew how to get what you wanted. You would know how to position something. If you wanted to do something, you'd be like, I'll do that if. Business world.
Right.
Like, how do we teach people to negotiate and position things well for the good of the end outcome, and also self in that too. So she's like, you're always great at that. And then some of the fondest memories I have is the amount that I wanted to dress up and change clothes, and had an obsession with dressing up and changing my outfit multiple times a day and having to have pictures taken at the same time.
Right.
Okay. So why do I laugh around that? Because I love public speaking. I love dressing up. I love fashion. I love, and a lot of what I do is in the world of hospitality, nightlife and events, appearance and aesthetics is also really important.
Sure.
So I didn't necessarily know how that was going to form, but I can certainly look back and say, man, that's always been in me. Yeah.
Nice.
That's been fun. Some kind of still expressing self.
Love that. And I can see some of that as a father of 2 daughters now, who are at that age where they're like, yeah, I'm just going to get changed before we go out to the, and I'm like, you don't need to get changed. We're just going to go, like, it's a 30-second walk to the shop. No, I've got to get my handbag. And I'm like, you're 12. What's going on?
Encourage it. It's amazing. I think I'm really for feminine expression in beauty in that way. I think when we shut that down, we're shutting down an innate part of how we're designed and how we're designed to be seen. So I'm like, celebrate that.
So if we fast forward to today, taking those traits into where you're at now, what is it that you do?
So my main business is in staffing. I set up this business when I was 20 years old. I'm now 35, so 15 years ago. And we provide flexible opportunities in the nightlife, hospitality, festival and event space. Amazing.
Incredible. So your customers are people that put on events, that need staff to come and run the events and support the events.
Right. So everything from bars, nightclubs, festivals, corporates, brands that need activating, that want to use a temporary workforce, that want to use us week in, week out as well. A lot of our clients do. Yeah. So that's my main business. Every other business that I've had, most of them have fallen around the hospitality and events industry.
Why hospitality? Why that?
So I started working in hospitality when I was at university. I went to London School of Economics.
Right.
And in my second year, started working in the bars and clubs myself. And in my last year of uni, grew my company from there.
Wow. Did you have a moment where you thought, I'm doing this work, I'm going to start my own business?
I had a moment where I loved making money. And I loved talking to people, and I didn't want to stop.
I love your honesty. It wasn't
so much like, oh, I really want to make a business. It was, I don't want to stop doing what I'm doing. But I understood that there was a ceiling to it, because it was my time, my hours that I was trading. So how do you duplicate? I think business can be very simple. When you start, what am I doing? Is it making money? Is it profitable? Am I enjoying it? How do I now duplicate this so it can change more people's lives, impact more people? And then how do I systemize it, optimize it, and keep doing the same thing? Yeah. I love what I do as a whole. I love the impact that I have. And also there are moments where you go, why am I doing this? Yeah. And I think it's really important in entrepreneurship to acknowledge both.
I think so.
If people say, if you don't love what you do, if you don't love what you do every day, then stop doing it. No, that's not reality of life. The reality is, some days you're working crazy, stupid hours, and that's tiring and that's draining. And then there's frustration, because when you've got a team, you're not maybe communicating in a way that they're understanding the actions that you're asking them to do. So the output isn't exactly what you wanted. So there are always points of contention and lack of enjoyment, but I see those as teachers, not things to be avoided.
It is work for a reason. There's hard graft, there's discipline, there's resilience that needs to be built. There's, digging down deep when you don't want to do what you have to do, and seeing the bigger picture of why you're doing what you're doing,
Yeah, absolutely. And knowing that you're part of creating something, it's that reminder that it's not actually about the emotional state of love, like, dislike. Those are all momentary feelings. I think when something resides for a long season of time, it's worth listening to. Yeah. So if there's real dislike for what you're doing, are you maybe doing the wrong thing within your company? Maybe it's time to employ someone else to do that part, so you can go and find another sense of enjoyment. It doesn't mean you quit altogether. It's worth listening to a residing feeling that you can't quite shift or reframe or shake. But day to day, feelings are momentary.
Yeah.
I'm a very feely person and I'm very expressive and I can feel about 25,000 things in one given day.
Yes.
So I'm okay knowing that it's not going to last.
Yeah. This too shall pass, I think.
This too shall pass. So accountability to something, the ownership of something, like what you invest in, see it through. When you say you're going to do something, do it.
Agreed.
There are still principles like that. So if I think about my most recent journey, we're growing in a new market, we're growing in Dubai. And there have been multiple times, and we were just talking about this off camera, weren't we? Where I've gone, why am I doing this? Right? Arab market, Middle Eastern market, completely new culture, right? Completely new way of doing business. Time difference, all of these things. I've had to travel back and forth. And then I go, I have invested money. I invested time. I have told my team that we're doing this. So I've held mass levels of accountability by word, investment, deed, so many things to create levels of accountability around yourself to whatever that thing is and see that through. So whether that's changing or whether that is staying the course, I think the principles are the same.
Yeah, I agree. And what that is teaching yourself on an internal level is integrity.
Yes.
Like, I'm going to do what I said I was going to do.
No matter what.
No matter what. With enough leeway for tweaking along the way so that we're not, enslaved to this rigid structure.
Totally.
Yeah. I've got some quick fire questions to ask you.
Let's do it,
to
Rix.
kind of uncover your personality a little bit more. So, favourite food, Sarah?
Lebanese all the way.
Lebanese. Anything specific?
Halloumi has to always be on every dish. Whether then it's chicken sheesh, lamb sheesh, anything in between, just make sure the halloumi's there.
Okay, so I'm not a fan of halloumi.
I know.
So every time I see halloumi, you can have my portion.
I will have all of the halloumi.
I'll swap you for the lamb. But you want the lamb as well, don't you? Okay, iPhone or Android?
I've got both.
You've got both?
I know, I'm greedy. Much prefer the iPhone. That is my go-to.
Okay.
But I have got an Android too.
Okay. Preferred clothing choice? Oh, you talked a little bit about fashion.
Cat suits.
Cat suits?
Cat suits. It's the year of the cat suit.
Oh, they're like the zip up one
piece.
piece.
I did, if anyone follows me on Instagram or wants to follow me on Instagram, I had an outrageous cat suit that I wore for a speaking gig back in December, and then from then on it's become the year of the cat suit.
How did that go down? If
Went
it was
down
outrageous.
wonderfully. It was outrageous. It was a women's only event, and the whole theme was Unleash Your Diva.
Oh.
And I was the keynote speaker, so I was like, we are unleashing the diva. So I bought this particular crazy cat suit for Burning Man.
I think I
years
saw
before.
it.
Yeah.
Is it like
sparkly?
Yeah, kind of grey, white or something like that. Yeah,
exactly. And I bought it for Burning Man, didn't end up going because I had no opportunity to wear it. So I was like, right, you're coming out.
Nice.
It's the year of the cat suits.
Like it.
Yeah.
What a way to make an entrance as well, if you're speaking. Fantastic. Year of the cat suits. All right. Favourite place?
Somewhere between Ibiza and Broadstairs, which is on the Kent coast.
You lived in Ibiza, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
For
How long
7
did you live?
months.
7 months. Okay.
Yes. Ibiza's always going to have a place in my heart. And then Broadstairs, I'm very sentimental with places and people and things.
Same.
And so Broadstairs, we grew up, we had a family home down there, and that's where we spent every single one of our summers.
Oh, wow.
So it's a very special place to me.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And Ibiza, what was the reason for going out there?
It's held every single season version of Sarah, which there have been many.
Right.
And I went 20 times before living out there. Again, if you're a clubber, if you're part of the party scene, you're going to have gone to Ibiza, or you should have gone to Ibiza.
But you know what? I never made it out there. I never went.
But it's also got a beautiful side to it. So it's amazing for nature. There's a whole spiritual kind of community that live on the island all year. Yeah, it's stunning. Amazing restaurants. And now on a very practical level, some of my best friends live there.
Oh,
so they are family to me.
Yeah.
So I'll go every year to be with them and connect with them. Sometimes a couple of times a year now.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right, I'll put it on my to-do list.
You've got to.
Star sign.
Aries.
You're an Aries.
I'm Aries.
That means you just had your birthday or you're about to have it.
24th of March. That's my sun. And then if anyone's really into it, Capricorn ascending, Scorpio moon.
Oh, Scorpio moon.
I know.
Interesting.
We're viciously wild and mysterious.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm on the cusp of Scorpio and Sagittarian. I'm a Sagittarian.
Nice.
I can't remember what the moon one is.
The moon's the key one. I think the moon is like your emotional home.
Oh.
Well, it's not the key one, but
But it's important.
It's very important, yeah.
I've got it written down. I could look it up, but I want to carry on with the podcast. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Dogs.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like a good dog.
Okay. Last movie that you watched? Was it hit or miss?
13 going on 30. It's a kids' film-ish.
Okay.
And I watched it with my sister over Easter. And it was wonderful. It's
Okay.
very deep and meaningful.
Who's
I
in
recommend everyone to watch it. Yeah. It's like this 13-year-old who goes back and she becomes 30 and then she gets to re-see all her life. And she doesn't like the choices that she's made. But
Right.
it's got this message of real poignancy of every choice that you make leads to an outcome.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'll check it out. Who's in
Recommend
that?
it. I think is it Rachel? I don't know.
It's someone. We'll put
It's
it in the
someone.
description if you
Not
want to watch
very
it.
good at remembering
Remembering
actors
the
or
names.
actors' names.
I'm terrible with artists.
Really?
So I love a song.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. I'd be like, oh, I don't know who that is. Or,
Yeah.
or lyrics. It doesn't stop me singing.
No, I
still
try
sing.
to. Yeah, sometimes I get the lyrics wrong, but
All the time.
all the time.
Honestly, even my favourite songs, I get the lyrics wrong.
Rewrite them.
I just rewrite them. My kids are like, Dad, that's not the right words. I'm like, I don't care. I'm having a great time.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
It's the energy.
It is, absolutely. Is there a current TV show you're into or a book that you're reading at the moment?
Book I'm reading, The Referable Speaker. So I read very specifically into something that I want to build on in that
Same,
time.
yeah.
So it's about the speaking industry and how you become someone who gets gigs through referrals and relationships. And then I don't really watch series, but the best one I watch that I just tell everyone to watch is Sex Life.
Sex
It
Life.
is the best thing I've ever watched,
okay.
ever.
Okay.
All about relationship dynamics,
Yeah.
2 series, highly recommend it.
And then last quick fire. Well, this isn't really a quick fire question, but are you spiritual? Do you believe in God or a higher power?
Yes.
Yes.
I obviously brought up in Christianity. I don't connect to religion.
Mhm.
I think religion is a set of rules that are made often by men or the interpretation of spiritual texts, which has happened through men over time. I did a big deep dive into Christianity and could really deconstruct the whole thing around Constantine and the laws and how certain books were taken out of the Bible. And I really went on a big journey with that. And it partly to understand self, understand, I suppose, a search for truth, as so many people want to go on when they go through why does one go on a spiritual journey? Why does one look into that? And I think to simplify it, there is so much mystery and unknown and unexplainable. And to think that one has all the power and knowledge and wisdom alone, or that is only in human, is, to me, false. It takes you a minute to look into nature to know that you are a speck of dust, ultimately.
Yeah.
And that there is so much that is greater than your reality and your life. So to miss that is to miss the world, and to miss, I think, a creator. I think everything also is in relationship.
Agreed.
So we are in relationship to all things, and therefore there is a higher power that you have the ability to have relationship with.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I think what's attractive about the Christian faith is relationship.
Yeah.
And I think where it's become a religion in many aspects, it goes against the very nature of Jesus, who came to abolish religion.
Yeah.
In my view, I'm just one man. But it is about entering into a relationship with a power that none of us have the monopoly on, and or understand or can truly fathom.
And I think that's the point there, Rix. It's the understanding. So any religion has only tried to frame what is actually indescribable and unfathomable.
Yep.
And therefore, where I found part of my spiritual journey, my spiritual journey has led me on many different paths, many different paths and explorations and rabbit holes and ways of expression. And I think where I find the most truth is in mystery. There is a mystery and an unknown.
Yep.
And so resting in that allows you to connect to a higher power. The explanation of those things are just words.
Yeah. Wow. I could do a whole podcast with you on that. That would be amazing. But I want to move on because I want to hear your journey of courage. So let's do that. Let's do a spiritual one. Love languages. Have you ever done the love languages test?
I have.
What would you say your top 2 are?
So I have this natural aversion whenever anyone asks me to connect with a frame. I'm like, I'm none of them and all of them.
Yes. Yeah. No, you can.
That's my first. And I love physical touch. If anyone knows me, I'm definitely a person of touch. You could watch me walk down a corridor, and if there's art on the wall or a flower, I will touch every single thing. So definitely physical touch.
I'm the same, so I'm going to physical touch you, high five, boom.
Physical touch is up there. I love language as well. I love words of affirmation, and I don't understand anyone who doesn't. I'm kind of like, no, that's how we communicate. Like words are really, really important. And time, quality, presence, time.
Yeah.
So super important to me. Yeah.
Which is really interesting because they're my top three as well, in that order as well. And I think for me, they work so beautifully together because in order to have the physical touch, you've got to be together, right? You have to have the quality time. And same with the words of affirmation. Like you have to be together. Now, I understand that technology has allowed us to do that across the planet now. So you can have amazing words with someone across the planet and have that deep, meaningful connection, which is a beautiful thing. So you've got those things working in tandem with each other.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. All right. Are you more of a make things happen or are you go with the flow person, or have you learned to balance the
both?
two? Different
times, different seasons, different reasons. I can move between both.
Right.
And different parts of life. So I'll really contextualize that. In business, it would be foolish to say that you just go with the flow. There is a point, particularly if you're a leader in that company, and you need the structures, you need the systems, you need the processes so that you can lead people.
Yeah.
And you need to make things happen, and you need to be prepared to push and do things when others won't. And if we take romantic relationships, I don't want to have the same approach as business. I want to go a little bit more with the flow. I want to let it unfold. I want to be a little bit less, it has to look like this, and I have certain friends and women who I speak to, and they'll be very boxed in to have children. It has to be like this. It has to, and there's an energy that they work with to make that happen. I personally don't like to approach that area of my life in that energy. And I think life's taught me that. So last year, and I know we'll go into probably more of this in a moment.
Okay, before you start that, I just want to throw into the mix that way of thinking is very masculine in nature.
Yes.
So if you do have female friends who are saying, I want structure, what they'll find is they might be, and I'm being very general here, everyone's different, but they're throwing into their relationship a very masculine structured way of doing things. And usually that'll push the man into two different spaces. He'll either go into his feminine or he'll go overly masculine, but might turn a little bit toxic. So then you're kind of playing with a little bit of fire when you go in that way.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's when women get to a certain age. So in my business, it's mainly women that we provide work to. So I'm surrounded by a lot of women a lot of the time. And there is a biological thing. So if women do want to have children, and this is where I do acknowledge and I honor where that desire comes from, the feminine place, because there is an intentionality of like, if someone doesn't want to have children and does, and they're moving towards that, it's not they're trying to go into the masculine. They're really honoring that an innate desire that's ultimately feminine.
Yeah.
And the story I was just about to tell. So I think last year taught me a lot around this. So my sister my middle sister, she was 31, been married for 6-7 years. In a relationship for 13, they'd met at university, and they were having their first child, and she found out when she was 6 months pregnant that she had stage 3 breast cancer. So she gave birth to my nephew. He's so well and healthy. And then sadly, the cancer spread to her brain lining, and when he was 6 months old, she passed away. Now, one of the lessons from that, of many, has been not to hold on to ideals.
Right.
And that's not, I'm not speaking from a despondent place in that. I'm not speaking from not to have desire and not to be excited about things and not to look forward to things. I'm just speaking from a place of realism of you don't know what is going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
You don't know what you've projected for your life or what you've held onto or what you have said that is going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. There is this mystery. There is this element of life outside. And if you hold on to such an ideal, it's where you can become hugely depressed. It's where you can become so despondent with life because you become so disappointed. Her life didn't go the way that any of us had hoped or desired or she even thought. Yeah. And, there is so much joy. I get to have a closer relationship than I probably ever would have with my nephew. all of our family have become so much closer together in our grief and in this last year and a half. And we have a beautiful gift in my nephew, but it's not how any of us thought it would be.
Of course.
But yet it's a family. He still has many mothers in us and many female role models.
Yeah.
You go with a lot of what life presents and see what actually happens, knowing that a lot of it is out of your control.
Yeah. I'm really sorry about your sister.
Thank you.
I have listened to a few things in terms of the communication that you have out there, and it really did. I really felt it.
Thank you.
What was her name?
Hannah.
Can we shout out Hannah a little bit?
Yeah, and I'll tell you this for meaning of names.
Yes, please.
So a few days after she passed, I just really had this sense and feel to go back to look at what the meaning of her name is and what it actually means. And I remember her in her last couple of weeks, she said, if all I was like made to do was to give birth to my son, River, then I feel like I've had a life well lived. And her name actually means God gave me a son. And as I said, my parents named us very intentionally, prophetically, with deep meaning. And every time I say it, I get shivers.
I got goosebumps you say that.
Because you're just like, what? Yeah.
It's true. Hannah couldn't bear a child, and,
No,
and she was
exactly.
given a son.
Yeah.
Hannah also means highly favoured.
Yes,
Yeah.
grace and
grace.
gift of God. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And that was, when did you say that was? A year and a half, 2 years
It was
ago?
literally a year ago on the 4th of April. So what are we at now? We're 2 weeks out of that. Yeah.
Wow.
A year and a bit ago.
I love the way you, and I'm not obviously assuming that you haven't gone through a lot with that. I have seen what that's like, and there's a lot to go through there.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm trying to say here is I love the way you're looking at it in terms of framing that, in terms of looking at her young son now to say he has mothers, he has people around him, we are a family. There was an ideal that we, took for granted, we all do. And actually what I'm going to do going forward is to honour her by living my life. And I think that's a beautiful way to move forward in life.
Yeah, I think there are days of that and days that don't feel like that. And I know there will be moments where we grieve her loss for him. And you don't know how anyone's going to receive anything. We don't know. We can imagine there'll be pain for him. We don't know. We don't know anything.
Yeah.
And I think when a child is young, it's about the love. Maybe less so than who it's from. Just the fact that there's a loving environment.
I agree. I heard something, I think it was only yesterday or the day before, and it said something about it's not the destination, it's the journey. And that's nothing new. I think we've all heard that in the last few years. And then someone said, no, it's the company.
I'm not kidding you, Rick. The first time I heard that was on Wednesday.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I was having lunch with a friend and he said exactly the same thing to me. And I wrote it down on my phone because I said, I connect with that so much. How funny is that?
It just blew my mind.
Yeah.
I was like,
it was like, it's the company, it's the people you do it with. And I was like, it sounds like quite like you, like relational. And that's a very big, important part of my life of who I'm doing it with.
Yeah.
And I think everything that you need is in relationship.
I agree.
It is in the people around you. And, the famous phrase, no man is an island, no person is an island. We're not supposed to be isolated.
No, we're not.
In anything, yeah.
We're not. And I think we all learned that over lockdown.
We did.
On a global level.
Yeah, in a very practical, physical way.
It is about community. When someone goes through something really tough, you'll find people will cook meals and bring them around. It's like a little bit of a go-to, but it's a go-to for a reason, because food unites people and there's a sense of community and sharing.
Yeah.
And it speaks to that really unconscious psychological state of loneliness and brokenness. When you have community, you're going through something together. And even if the other person doesn't understand what you're going through, just their presence alone sometimes is enough to get you out of that dark space. Even if it's just 1% up, if we're using that analogy of going upwards, to go, okay, I'm here, I'm present,
I agree. I mean, I wouldn't have got through the year as I did if it wasn't for the people that I had around me. And I always hope to be connected enough to people, and I've wired myself to prioritize the details of people's lives and be connected to that in a very practical way. For me, that is a deep expression of care.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Even when it doesn't look like what you want it to look like.
Yeah.
This is a bit of a surface level story, but in terms of my dad, he's an overfeeder. He just loves feeding people.
Yeah.
And I know where it comes from. He came from a very poor background where they didn't have food, and they really struggled. There's a whole bunch of them living in what we'd say is maybe the size of this area here. So his sort of goal in life is to feed people, and so he's constantly asking me as a 40-year-old plus 40 plus year old is hey, have you had breakfast? Have you had lunch? Have you had it? It winds me up to the nth degree. Like, Dad, I'm a grown man, you know. But I understand that's the way he cares. That's the way he does community. That's the way he. So it's kind of receiving in a way that you go, okay, I need to see the heart's intention behind it, not just the triggering thing about, oh, leave me alone.
And you know what? That's such a great point, because to flip it back to what I was just saying a moment ago, because my expression of care is remembering the detail and, you know, messaging people, being present for that, or asking them about this thing when I next see them. And I've wired my brain to be like that, and people always acknowledge that you have an aptitude for remembering all the detail. And what I've actually done at times is be offended when someone else doesn't. However, just because that's my way of expressing care does not mean that the other person doesn't care because they don't remember that. So it's also reminding yourself that care is, like everything, is so nuanced, is so multifaceted, and have we taken enough time to understand the way that that person expresses care, or just be attentive enough and present enough to, like you said, honor the heart's intent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where the love languages for me really opened my eyes to that. I know it's love languages and we're looking at 5 different things, but it's so much bigger than that.
Yeah.
It is kind of that whole principle of not everybody thinks like you, not everyone feels like you, not everyone receives like you, not everyone gives like you. And so I was in relationships, like platonic relationships, where I'm like, hey, they didn't even bother calling me. Like, I always check in on them. What's going on? Like, I'm going through a hard time right now.
Yes.
Or they forgot my birthday and I always remember their birthday, and I'll make a little video or a text or whatever. And I think I've done the work enough to go, it's okay. I'm doing it because I want to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and if I want to do it and it brings me love, so you receive love sometimes when you give love. So it's like from within, I mean, not from another person. So I was experiencing love by giving, and I was going, well, why don't I hold on to that? Why isn't that my frame of reference in terms of, you know, giving? And then it just changed my world, because it was never about that transactional. Yeah,
I agree with that. And I think the more you grow to know someone, you know how they are expressing, and through good communication and asking and questioning, you soften and learn another, rather than it needing to be the way that you are. And also sometimes you may actually say, well, actually I'm not getting filled. It's also important to acknowledge that, where actually I can really see what they're trying to do, but for whatever reason, in terms of belief system or way of operating that I do want to hold because it's serving me, I'm not actually receiving this as love. So therefore can't the person's a close into relationship. You build the life and the connection that you want. I endeavor to say, not that one. Not that ideology. I'm more like, I like the difference. I like learning the different ways that people express. I like taking time to try to receive love in a different way, and really being intentional at being with that.
I really like what you said just then as well, in terms of no, not that one, because I think good boundaries are important. I've probably learned that much later in life, because I've just been like, I love everyone, everyone must love me, and it's one all happy clappy family. But it's not like that. The world's not like that.
No.
And I think knowing when to say no early on, it's really healthy.
Totally. And giving something time is also important. But I remember like sitting down with a friend this week. It was the same friend who taught me that exact thing. And he said something. He said, watch out for what you tolerate, or look out for what you tolerate. Pay attention to it. I said, okay, let's expand. What do you mean by that? And there was that exact example, that he was in a particular relationship, and that way that person was through their being wasn't enabling him to receive love that he knows he needs. There was just part of the way that person operates. And rather than trying to change somebody, or, you know, obviously they talked about it, they were in a relationship, they spoke about that, they tried to work on that thing, but it fundamentally wasn't who that person, how that person operated.
Yeah.
And then over a season of time, you go, this isn't actually serving me because I am feeling empty.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of the work in relationships. It's acknowledging and knowing what has filled you before, because that's not to say you can't actually change and adapt and evolve. Communicate that, work through that, see where the points of little disconnection or contention come.
Yeah.
Talk about it at those points, see how it evolves. I think a lot of us, a lot of the time, particularly in the Western world, you know, if we've been so programmed to be production people, we want relationships to produce a certain outcome for us very quickly, because we're wired that way in the workplace. We've got to do that to KPIs, goals. A relationship isn't like that. The relationship doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
It's a lot more softer.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be.
Yeah. And I've failed in that so many times in in a romantic relationship where I've gone, oh, if we just do this many times, if we just make sure we've, you know, ticking all these boxes, it'll all be good. And it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't. And it's a lot more, you're both operating at different paces. There's so many different dynamics that go into it, that it's so much more. I can't explain it any other way than, you know, like those embryo type movements. It's a lot more like that than like that.
Yeah,
it's
really
more
good.
of an energetic movement, isn't it?
Yes.
And you've got to just look at all the nuances and how they fit together. And I think that's why we have things like high divorce rates or Tinder and all these different things where next. Not meeting my needs. But I'm an independent woman. Can't have that. Can't, like, boundaries. No.
Yep.
I'm happy about. Where does this whole attitude come in?
Yeah.
Do you ever want to be with someone?
I agree. I'm with you.
Do you ever want to get into exploration and curiosity and being a bit more we've lost a lot of that.
I think I had a guest on, Helena Summer. She talked about it being a dance, to see a relationship as a dance. Sometimes you take a step forward, sometimes you're the one that takes a step back, sometimes there's a twirl, sometimes there's a, you know, and I thought, what a beautiful way to start to think about it, as opposed to this linear, okay, you know, I don't know, he's not working out, he doesn't go to the gym, I always wanted a gym man, he's out, done. And it's like, okay, all right.
Oh, look, I've given this, and I've got nothing back. Like, what about over the course of the last 6 months?
Yeah.
That why are you looking at the 1 week when that person's been having a really tough time?
Exactly.
And judging that as the whole essence of, and I'm guilty for that. We all are at times.
Yeah.
And it's when we often get so much into ourselves and our own needs. And it's not that those things aren't important. And I think, having grown up in a Christian household, just to kind of counteract a lot of what I've said, my childhood up until the age of 14 was quite perfect, so to speak. It was gorgeous. My parents had a great relationship, and it was very solid and stable. And then my dad, when I was 14, had an operation that went wrong, and it gave him a spinal cord injury. So he's paralyzed from the waist down. So I watched my parents' relationship dynamic completely shift.
Right.
So my mum has been his carer for over 20 years. Now, watching that kind of model of love and watching my mother have to become everything for our household and for him and for, you know, that changes a lot of how you see relationships. And I see her value system, which is very high of sacrifice and being sacrificial and putting the needs of another first, also have the downside to it. You know, there's going to be resentment there. There's going to be a level of like, I've actually sacrificed so much here. Who am I? Have I lost, you know, and I'm not saying this is my mother's narrative. I'm just saying things that could come up. Have I lost myself as being a carer? Have I become who am I? Now, because we can lose ourselves if we follow one frame of existence, one ideology to the end. Actually, you've just become that very thing.
I'm with you. I think you said, rewinding a little bit, and you said something around the, oh gosh, what did you say? It made me think of this. It was just last night. I think I was packing equipment for today, and I just put on a Jordan Peterson talk, and he was talking about reading his university students a book called There Are No Dragons, or The Dragon's Not in the House, or something like that. Sorry, if you're listening, I'll put it in the description, the actual proper title. But the idea is, if you don't tend to the dragons when they're little, then these dragons grow and devour you. And I think there is, in the Bible, it says, beware of the little foxes as well, because those foxes start to grow and they eat you up from inside, which is a really dangerous thing. And so when you were talking about no and knowing your boundaries and knowing, okay, this person and I are not vibing or whatever it is, I think it's really important to listen to your intuition. And I think in the Western world, we don't listen to our intuition enough. We go down that productivity route that you were talking about, and we look for these red flags, these green flags, whatever, totally forgetting that in all of this, we need to be present in our bodies and in our emotional state, in our spiritual state, in our logical state, to be able to make decisions that are not always going to be so black and white.
Agreed. And I think intuition in itself can be black and white, and it can actually be a very dangerous place just to live in too.
Agreed.
I watch a lot of my friends from spiritual communities, and when they are living by intuition, their behavior can actually be sometimes a bit erratic or a little bit less logical, or, because even intuition itself, what is intuition? That could be a complete and utter debate and deconstruction in itself. Some people would say that intuition is made up of previous experience and past experience.
Yep.
And so intuition, how do you have intuition for an experience that is out of yourself?
Yeah.
So let's take this and apply this relationally. You're now experiencing a relational dynamic that you have no grid for. Intuition is telling you, don't go there. It's not right for you. You don't know that. It's just your past experience has conditioned you up to a certain point, if you believe that's what intuition is, that you don't trust that situation yet. So your body starts to freak out in a fear state. Actually, if you relax into that, you be with your body a little bit more, maybe this could be the thing for you. Some people may say that intuition is, higher power, and that there is supposed to be a soul's journey that you are supposed to do. Whole different belief system there and way of looking at it, that no, there is a hard intuition, a hard and fast no.
Yep.
And it all, it's even intuition itself is so nuanced. And so I think it's being able to make decisions with gut instinct, but ask yourself, what is that gut instinct?
Yep.
Be with something for long enough, because that could just be fear or a trauma response or something. And being able to logicalize things, being with something, time is the key.
Time is brilliant. Yeah.
Intuition plus time.
Yeah, I agree. And it's measuring it across the different dimensions within you. I talked about your spiritual state, your emotional state, etc. If you've been in an abusive relationship, or you've been subject to abuse in some way, let's take a typical woman being abused by a man, had a in growing up, etc. You're listening to, of course, if you haven't done the work and you haven't gone on a bit of a healing journey, you're listening to your intuition from a place of fear over a very toxic environment, dangerous environment. So when you look at another man, you have the potential of projecting that persona onto every man that you see and meet, and that ties into what you're saying there. Totally.
Yeah. Exactly. But if we take any belief system in itself, one would say it's wrong. Don't go with that person.
Yeah.
And so anything in its own is never going to be the full picture of how we should approach anything. And it's having the wisdom to, and doing enough, I think, variety of work, where it's not just mindset. We do somatic work as well. I'm very intentional. I have been very intentional at picking up tools and having different resources and from very different schools of thought. And the reason why is because we are multifaceted beings.
I agreed.
To go down one school for me doesn't work. And I am a complicated person. I think we all are, if we allow ourselves to be.
Yeah.
And sometimes we rest in one school because we find a sense of home or comfort. And that's okay. You can stay there if that's the life that you want to lead. For me, the life that I want to lead is very expansive. So I want to have been able to explore all these different methodologies.
Did you say expansive or expensive?
Expansive.
Just
maybe
checking.
expensive too. No, expansive, so that I've got this very broad acceptance of self.
Yes. Yep.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
Because if you explore these different communities, modalities, ways of thinking, it's all coming back to you. Because you realise we're in acceptance of self here.
Yeah, totally.
And that's the healing journey, or whatever we want to call that.
Exactly. Whatever we want to call it. And I think for me, even when I look at Going Courage, sometimes I get asked, what's your agenda? Why are you, talking to people about all this sort of stuff? And I'm like, if I break it down to its rawest form, I'm interested.
Yeah.
I'm just genuinely interested. I love the journey. that we all go on to get a sense of self, to understand what our identity is, and to live in a place where I don't think that any of us have got it worked out. And so there's so much gold in having conversations with people, looking at their testimony, looking at their way of life, looking at what they've gone through, learning from that, and then there to be an exchange of authentic connection, to see how we can sort of help each other along the way in terms of the journey.
Yeah.
And then you start to see loads of overlap. And if you look at it from a spiritual dynamic and you believe there is an intelligent designer out there, you can start to see the cogs in the wheel of where your life is going.
Yeah.
But if you sit there making it up or jumping into a cave thinking about where you want to go, you miss the beauty and the richness of actually going on the journey or experiencing beautiful things that might just be for that present moment.
Yes.
So you can have a connection with someone, which is amazing soulmate level connection, for a month, but then you might not see them again. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't meaningful and it wasn't an important part of your journey.
Agreed. And I think in that it's not holding on, learning to actually let that pass through.
Detachment,
Detach and be grateful. You don't have to hold on to something just because you're grateful for it. You can be grateful at it from a distance as well.
Yeah.
And I think what you said there about moments, understanding that life is moments. You know, even if you think about a long-term relationship, marriage, whatever it is, it's a collection of moments. Some of them are great moments that you want to put in the forever memory book. Others are like, this is pretty boring and mundane, right? This is life. It's a collection of moments. And what are the moments that you choose to create? And coming back to your question about controlling or being kind of more direct and intentional versus kind of going with the flow, it is living in the both. And the more I have relaxed into any situation, the more enjoyment I've got from it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's just such a weird paradox, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. And it comes back to just realizing that you are a speck. And that's okay.
And that's okay.
Yeah. And you're also epic. And self-belief is so important. And you're incredible. Yeah.
There's only one Sarah Moxom.
Exactly.
You know? And, you know, I use the term soulmate there. And I'll go back to touching on, we were talking about ideology in terms of ideals and stuff. And so for me, I always believe in the concept of a soulmate. You know, this person that was made for you. The creator made it one man and one woman, or however you want to look at things. And that's your soulmate, right? Which is a load of crap. Right?
Totally.
It's complete rubbish. But I was so convinced by that. And it was only later in life when I was like, I believe that we're all souls, whatever that means to different people, whatever, right? But we're all kind of this, you know, amalgamation of spirit and logic and emotion and all of that stuff. I'm calling it soul, right? And you can have many soulmates along the way, platonic, romantic, whatever else there is, maybe even people that are your adversaries, but they teach you about yourself and they teach you what you stand for, what you don't stand for. And I think when I start to look at life like that, it is a little bit like the I can't say the word. The embryo.
Yes. Yeah.
It is that kind
nucleus.
That nucleus of like just, you know, and life looks like that. If you go down the science world anyway, life looks like this. It doesn't look like that.
No.
And actually, I would argue if your life looks like that, you're flatlining, you're dead. Whereas when you look at the, you know, the heartbeat.
I love the highs and lows. I seek them. That's an artist. An artist seeks that tapestry to create.
Yeah, definitely.
And it doesn't disassociate. An artist doesn't disassociate from any of the colours and spectrums and things that it wants to bring in. Let's bring it all into the melting pot. Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's go.
It all has a place. And it's interesting what you said about the ideology and the soulmates. And I think any ideology that we hold on to gets questioned and challenged hugely and gets massively broken down because we've almost made this grippy thing around it. We're supposed to be a bit more expansive and open as an energy field, as a person.
Yeah.
And I know, like, I'll give you an example to that too, like having done a lot of somatic work and a lot of embodied work.
Could you just explain what that is for people who don't know what that is?
So somatic work is a lot of what, so say like, I'll give tangible examples, like going to a static dance, really working with your emotions, with your energy body and feeling things in your body and being very attuned to, you know, if one may call it the chakra system and where that different chakras have different meanings. And when you've kind of opened up that space, it was a lot through me through meditation very intense, long meditation and a bit of plant medicines as well. But when you become open to that and you tune to that, it's then almost the belief system that your body is giving you signals. Now, one could look at that in a very black and white way. Your heart chakra, right? We always say, my heart. What do I feel in my heart? If your heart hurts, is that a bad or good thing? Why do we frame that as bad?
Yeah.
In order for something to open, in order to feel, there is going to be pain.
Yep.
So if we meet someone who is causing our heart to hurt, is that good or bad? Are we so quick to frame it that we say there's a pain here, that's not for me?
And we know that our failures, our pain, usually shapes our character.
Yes.
You know, that's where you know who you are. That's when you show up.
And I would go as far to say that if someone is causing you to feel, lean in. If a situation is causing pain or sensation, you may label it as pain, but they are causing sensation in your body. There is an awakening. There is a wake up here.
Yeah.
There is something for you to be in right here and now.
Yeah.
And to sit with it. It's not black and white.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think if you look at the work, if you're going down the psychology sort of field and you look at Carl Jung's work, and he's talking about embracing your shadow self and actually understanding that there's a darkness in all of us, that if we try and run from it, we can't, it's attached to us. The shadow will show up. And the more we repress that, the more we are losing that into our unconscious mind. And therefore we don't have any free will decisions to make around it. Whereas if we embrace it, and I totally concede that a lot of us is going to be unconscious, so you're never going to get it all up, and it ties into what you're saying about mystery there as well. But if you can embrace some of that shadow work, shadow side, and do the shadow work, you can actually start to really see who you are and what parts of your character need refining, I would say. Like some things need to be cut off, but I think too many people think that a lot needs to be cut off, but it's not really about the cutting off, but it is about the embracing, the dance.
Literally, I was about to say the embracing. Whatever you don't embrace and accept will keep presenting itself. And life will force you, if you choose to go down it, to have a path and an option of full acceptance in your lived experience. This isn't talked about, in my opinion, it's not talked about from the meditation chair. It's not about sitting there going through all the things that I accept me. There will be the things that life will present to you. In
business,
in
work, in relationships, absolutely.
In all things. And it's walking through the other side, walking through it, not trying to pretend it's not there.
To go in courage, I would say. Because it is fear-based, isn't it? When you start to attach onto things, you're scared of letting go. You're scared of losing something. But love, in its essence, is to let go, is to allow freedom, is to allow liberty, you know. Which comes with that. Can't believe we got to all of that off one question. But there you go. We'll go quicker on the next one. What's a good compliment that someone said to you that was meaningful?
You are a walking contradiction. Loved it. Stood by that one for some time. Okay. Again, the multifaceted nature of, if you did look back at my life and the choices I've made, the things that I've done, I've embraced many different parts of life intentionally, because I think that's what life is. But then that means that people can't box you in, so they get you contradiction, confusing. I'm laughing so much because I can relate to that so much. I just didn't think another person did as well. So my name is a contradiction in itself. The meaning of the name is Lord of the Night. But then there's a comma and it's sun. So I'm supposed to be the sun, which is this bright thing, but I'm also the Lord of the Night. And they're the contradictory things, but they somehow coexist, you know. There you go.
But there you go. Wow.
That's
so you made me chuckle. What's a common misunderstanding you think people might have about you?
That I'm very, like, in the business world, I've been quite a robust person in my career, and there's a deeply sensitive side to me. So I think a lot of people don't always see that side, or they haven't had access to it, or they don't get to know that. So it's a misconception, because then I am very sensitive, and things that people do say sometimes too, I ponder on them and I care, and that they get to me. And it's been a misconception, I think.
So I was listening to I can't remember the name of it now. You were doing a talk at a conference in 2023.
EMC.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you came out straight away. You
Yeah.
hadn't come out onto the stage yet, and you were like, "All right, people, let's go, energy." Da, 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 da. And then to hear that, there is a sensitivity around, your heart and stuff. And maybe I'm just making things up, but maybe when you were off that stage, you were like, "Oh my gosh, how am I going to do this, etc., etc."
Yeah.
Because you care about how people would receive.
Well, totally. And I think in the business world, the choices that I've made in the industry that I'm in, it's very ruthless. It's very cutthroat. And it's very... To be a young woman in the industry that I was at the time, particularly, I had to develop deep resilience and a real hustler kind of, vibe, which I'm very grateful for. Very, very grateful for. But underneath, I'm very sensitive and soft, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Looking forward to getting to know that side of you. In terms of, we talked about productivity earlier on. Is there a particular mindset or a routine that you have instilled into your sort of daily practices that work for you?
I'm not a person of routine and structure by love.
Okay.
I have to create it for business.
Right.
I have definitely gone through seasons of having like, this is what I do in the morning here and this is then what I do. And again, as an explorer, I've tried many different things. What works for me now is to do what I want and what I feel like. So I don't set alarms.
Okay.
I let myself naturally wake up. I don't remember the last time I laid in because I'm an early riser and I always have been, but that's what my body wants. So I've learned to let my body guide that time.
Do you sleep early then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Average bedtime is like 9:30.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll average be waking up at 5. I do turn to my journal a lot, particularly in times of high intense pressure with work, because I will be thinking a lot and feeling a lot. And again, none of that is reality unless you choose for it to be. Right. So to dump is a really good method.
Yeah.
I also have a really incredible group of people who have done a lot of work and continue to do a lot of work on themselves.
Love that.
So my people are definitely part of my routine.
Yeah. Growth-minded people.
Yes. Yeah. And people who hold space well.
Beautiful.
I love to talk and I need to just often just air something out without someone needing to project or interject. So I position myself.
Can I just interject there? No, I'm kidding. Okay.
But I present that, and that I would say that is a routine. That is a routine because I am a connector. And so the introspective ways do a level, but I love to be validated, held and seen by another. And I've learned that over my journey. So I have a lot more, that's a lot more helpful for me than just doing the inner work.
I love that, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm receiving at the moment. Okay, all right, that's good. I feel like there's a lot of overlap in terms of some of the stuff that you shared today that I share. But I never really looked at it like that in terms of people being part of my routine and being able to hold that space for me in order to be able to soundboard, vent, project my stuff so that I can see it flipped back at me,
And I only learned that you often only learn something in times where it's taken away. So quite recently when I've been in Dubai quite a lot, I found it really challenging to time zone wise actually have those points of connection. I've been spending time with people over there who aren't deep friends. So they're not people that I can just tell everything to. And you know that you don't want to. It'd be so much context you need to share for them to know you. And it was then that I went, why do I constantly feel so disconnected? It was that feeling. I was like, I'm really feeling that, and it's making me feel more anxious. I'm feeling like just not myself. And it was when coming back to the UK for a bit more of an extended period of time, and I started catching up with my people again and telling them what I've been up to and listening to their lives, because it's the giving and receiving. It's both the two. Wow. The shift was immense.
Makes
and
so
I went,
much sense.
This is your medicine.
Love this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never really looked at it like that before.
Yeah.
So good. Touching on, you talked about journaling there.
Yeah.
So journaling for me, I thought was a waste of time. What a waste. Why do people journal? Until I started doing it. Changed my life.
Yeah.
Amazing just to be able to see what's going on here in front of you and then being able to decipher what that means, or sometimes yeah, that's not part of my life anymore. Or sometimes, okay, I need to create some structure here or allow more creativity or whatever. So I've authored a journal.
Love that.
It's called the Courage Journal. Actually, I have a gift for you today to take away with you.
Thank you.
But it's 31 days of building courage. And the idea is you can use it however you want. It doesn't have to be a daily thing. It can be whenever. There's dates you can write in if you want to. But the idea is 4 things. So one is to reflect on the day before. One is to be inspired by a motivational quote that's been specifically chosen. And then the other one is to study. So to study the quote, what does it mean to you? What does it look like? And then the last one is to encourage, and that is to encourage you for the day ahead and to look forward. So the acronym is RISE, encourage, from a place of potential anxiety or fear about what life looks like at the moment. So definitely want to give you a copy of that.
That'd be amazing.
But I thought I'd just tell everyone who's listening that's available as well. So yeah,
great.
Journaling.
It's a great design as well. I really love it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll give you a copy to have a look at. Okay, Sarah, if a lot of what we've talked about today has touched on the topic of courage, I could see the sort of thread all the way through in terms of attachment. We talked about detaching, holding on to things, the way that you framed things after your sister's passed away, and the way that you're looking at moving forward. It's very courageous in nature in terms of your entrepreneurial spirit, building a business, going out to Dubai, being very open with me on the podcast as well. And you could have easily said, I love what I'm doing and it's always amazing and I never have any moments of doubt. But what I'm getting from you is, work is work, and it's the reality of life, So with all that said, if you were to say to someone what you thought courage was at its kind of essence, what would you say?
The first word that comes to me is bravery and fearlessness. Those are words I connect to the word courage. And I think everything is in action. Every principle is only seen in an action.
Beautiful, yeah.
So we can hold values or ideals. We can hold them really, I'm this, I really, really am this. Are you by action? Because all that one will see at the end of your life is the actions that you took. They don't see the internal. Yeah,
well put. Really well put. And I guess even the word wisdom, a lot of people think wisdom is knowing, special things or knowing scriptures or knowing quotes or whatever, but it's actually applied knowledge.
Lived experience.
And so you can only do that by taking action.
Yeah. And is there collective wisdom? Or is there wisdom that is purely the wisdom that you've lived?
Yeah.
And therefore, can you actually gain collective wisdom without conversation and the learnings of others? And does it even exist?
Yeah. So if we put that into practice as an example, if you were working for a corporation, never started your own business, and you came onto this podcast and you were telling me how to run a business and how to get started, I'd be like, okay, these are some great things. If I was not smart, I would probably take what you have to say and go and apply it. However, a smart person would say, how do you know this? Oh, because you read a book. All right, cool. I'll read that book too. Or how do you know this? Oh, because your friend started a business. But you turning up and saying, I've been in business 15 years. Straight away, I don't even have to know the details of you being in what business you're in for 15 years. I know she's got resilience. Yeah. I know that she's had to have some tough conversations along the way. I know she's had to have had some negotiation skills. I mean, we learned that about you straight away. But there's so many layers that says just by knowing that you have taken action and done something before you've even got into the conversation.
Agreed. I do agree with that. And I think it's interesting in the world that we exist in now of experts and social media has allowed anyone to be an expert, and it's a confusing world to operate. And I think if I was starting a business now, I'd be highly confused about where to actually seek information, what information is going to be useful for me. At 20, when I started, I had no mentorship. I had no coach. I literally had the balls to say, I'm going to go do this and let me learn and live. And is it messy? Absolutely. Is it chaotic? Hugely so. Yeah. What we're doing in Dubai right now, no one's actually done. So it's not just that we're going to a new country. The actual one of the key services that we're providing, there is no grid for it, unless people have seen it in the UK or somewhere else. So we're groundbreaking in what we're doing, and I know others will follow because that's what's always happened. Yep. doesn't make it better or worse for you to be the one that innovates and creates or the one that follows along. However, the learnings that come from the first movers, the learnings that come from the ones that stay the course, they're going to be deeper.
Yes.
They're going to be greater. They are.
Yeah.
Because there's just more learnings along the way. That's what it all is. So I think you've made a great point that I often reflect on there. If you have done a long season in something, or you've gained experience for years, you do have the credibility, and maybe in your latter life you should consider the mentorship, the coaching, the consulting, that kind of work, because the speaking, the public speaking, the sharing to wider, larger audiences, younger audiences too. And not to say that we can't learn from some of the younger skills, but there is a wisdom and experience and time given that, I mean, some of my best friends are in their 60s or 50s, or I much prefer having that kind of counsel around me, just because there's so many more stories and a more expansive way of looking at it, and then so navigating your own life. Yeah,
totally agree. And I think it's if I dissect ages here, so if you take the broad spectrum, older people would have more stories because there's more experiences, assuming they've lived a life of action, right?
Great.
And I think that's where we, as a 40-year-old, have to say to myself, I'm not too proud to learn from a 20-year-old or a 25-year-old who's had 2 years, 5 years, 6 years of experience in something that I have no experience in. And that's where life starts to get quite interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm a Gen X. That's my generation. So we're rebellious by nature. It's just kind of how we were born into this. But I was right on the cusp of the next generation. And so I'm good with technology. I know the old ways, but I was a pioneer in the new ways. You know, I was building websites when they first came out, and, you know, coding language and all that kind of stuff. I haven't kept up, so I'm not as good as some of the guys now. But the point I'm trying to make here is we can learn. So you often get, these millennials, this snowflake generation, or, you know, I can't remember what the one after millennials is, but they've got this wrong with them, etc. But I'm going, well, if you look at the millennials, what about the good things? What about the self-assurance that is present? What about do you know what? I'm going to go out there. I'm going to make something of myself, instead of hiding behind, I don't know if I can. I'm too much of a rebel. I can't do this. I can't do that. So we can all learn from each other. And even boomers, we can learn so much about hard work and grafting and all the rest of it. And so I think when we start to even look at generational gaps between us and look at the way that people are taking action and learning from experiences, that's a winning combination. Instead of going, oh well, of course they had it, they had it easy because we went through that before them and we set it up for them. It's like it's not helpful to anyone.
No, and there isn't a right or wrong way, and we've all got opinions on different things from where we stand. And I love what you're saying there about it all being it all goes all ways. No generation has the keys or the answers.
Yeah. Totally. And I think so. My journey was of anxiety, which was horrible and it's quite chronic. But I don't sit in a seat now where I go, well, there's so many resources now. I didn't have that when I was that age. I'm glad there are resources.
Yeah.
Because I've seen what it was like when there weren't as much resources. So let's go from a position of joy and celebration as opposed to, this constant, Unless the only caveat I would say to all of that, unless you're the sort of person that is deconstructing something because you don't understand it in the hope to understand something so that you can make something better, then fair enough. Then that's a person of action, going back to what you're saying about courage. Yeah.
I think, for me, knowledge has to be applied for it to be useful.
Yeah.
I'm not, but that's an action taker. You have some people in the world who are academics, who are knowledge keepers, who are politicians, they've got a different place in the world. They need to know dates, stats, history, all the stuff.
Yep.
For me, if it can't be applied, I don't store it in my brain.
Do you read fiction books?
Not often enough.
No, I don't.
No.
Because I can't apply it.
No, not often enough. And again, like we were saying before, very specific reader in terms of I will read for what it is that I want to grow in and apply next.
100%. I'm the same.
Yeah.
And I think that comes down to efficiency as well.
Yeah. And knowing we have limited time.
Yeah.
Like I loved reading as a kid and I do love reading. I don't have that much time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm reading a book at the moment. So a lady called Catherine, who was on, I can't remember I think it was episode 15. she's an intimacy therapist, and I could go and you'd love Kat. She's amazing.
Yeah.
She talks a lot about energy and plant medicine and all sorts of stuff.
Amazing.
Like really incredible. But she recommended a book called The Alchemist. I don't know if you've ever read that. Have you read The Alchemist? Oh, so I've just started it.
Yeah.
I've just started it. And a friend of mine, Kirsty, who's a health coach as well, and she was like, she actually was listening to my podcast, and then she stopped the podcast, contacted me and said, what do you mean you haven't listened to The Alchemist, Rix? And I'm like, sorry, read it. And I'm like, okay, I'll get on it. So I just started.
Great.
I'm already like goosebumps everywhere.
And it's a fiction, but it's not. It's one of those that it is, but it isn't.
Yeah, I'm liking the ambiguity of it.
Yeah.
Am I saying the word right?
And I only read that 3 years ago. So, yeah.
Okay. I'm in chapter 2 and I'm like, what's going on? This is supposed to be an easy journey. What's going on?
Yeah.
Melchizedek and etc. Oh, okay. I'm going to digressing too much. Is there a particular experience that required courage for you personally? Is there something that comes to mind, or a couple of things that come to mind that you thought, I'm so scared right now, but I know the only way I'm going to get through this is to take a...
Yeah, there was many. I mean, I've touched on the one with my sister, which would be a natural go-to, but the one that really feels relevant to touch on with that, because it was very, very personal, and I think gave me a deeper understanding of the concept of mental health, was actually my journey with anorexia.
Okay.
So when I was 16, as a way of coping with the situation that my father went through of losing his legs and paralysis, and trying to make sense of that as a 14-year-old girl, I entered into what was at the time an abusive first romantic relationship. And he was very controlling in word and action, and also physically abusive as well. And what I did as a way of coping with those two male dynamics that were unsafe, unsecure, and one of them obviously destructive, was to control my food. So I had a chronic eating disorder. I weighed 5 stone. I had a BMI of about 13.5, which at that point it's like your organs are shutting down and you are close to starvation. So that was I think my deepest personal journey of courage, because it's so personal, an eating disorder. It's one that you're the one who's got to feed yourself. It's the one where the mental health condition where people who I know have worked in care have often said it's one of the darkest ones, because, well, there's probably many reasons why, but from my experience, because you are actually you're actually shutting your own body down, and it's with something that seems so basic to everybody. So we'll just eat. Yeah. Just eat. And so the internal battle with that was one where I really learned a lot in reflection on the mind-body connection. So I can remember when my parents realized that I was severely anorexic, they tried to show me that this is where I was at in life, but there was a complete and utter shutdown and denial. I was probably eating about 400 calories a day.
Wow.
But I was able to function and do everything.
Right.
So how? How could you eat 400 calories a day? Because actually you have power over your mind. And you can tell yourself a reality that becomes true.
Yeah.
So you can, people can survive.
Yeah.
And I was totally fine. Now, the moment that one night I woke up and I went to the bathroom and had the early onset of a heart attack and was rushed into hospital and had all these wires attached to me. And the nurses said to me, "What's wrong?" Now, the minute I said, "I'm anorexic," was the minute that it was like my body and mind caught up.
Right.
Now, the actual work started of healing and recovery, when there was acceptance and acknowledgement of the physical state that brought my own body to.
Yes.
Mind-body connection. There was no longer denial. Suddenly now I didn't have the energy source that I had at all. I was hungry all of the time, all of the time. And then that's when the battle really started, because now you're like, well, I don't want to. And how could I live on that? And then now I can't, and I want to stay skinny, and control, and everything then starts to really kick in when you've accepted your reality.
Yeah.
And I learned that at such a young age.
Wow. 14, did you say?
16 when it was critical. Yeah.
Right.
And so that was a 2-year journey with psychotherapists, with dietitians, with constant appointments, of choosing to be well, choosing that there are two parallel thoughts here that are existing. One is saying, do not eat.
Yep.
You cannot eat. Like this is not right. And the other going, but I'm choosing this. I'm choosing life. And you literally, if you go through anorexia, you do not see how you look in the mirror. You literally do not see it.
I was going to say, because you quite often, people who don't know about the topic would say, but you look fine. Why are you not eating? But you're not big. So what's your problem? You know, they associate with something that it's not at all.
Yeah. But you actually don't see your protruding bones. You do not see that you've got no muscle. There is something that just shifts in your mind.
Right.
Like I can remember I actually had friction burn on the bone, you know, where your bum is.
Yeah.
When I would sit down, there would be friction burn because that is how, there was nothing of me.
Yeah.
I never saw that in the mirror. Fascinating.
Yeah.
So it taught me a lot about ourselves, not like you fully understand it, but from lived experience I can kind of relate to certain things.
Yeah.
And then there was a choice to be well constantly, and the choice to choose life.
Yeah.
And if you go through a near-death experience or facing something where you're faced with death, to choose life gives you a new perspective on life, because you start to actually ask yourself deeper questions. What does life mean to me? Why am I living? Why am I choosing to live?
And I think with death as well, it gets you to a place where you have to recognize that time is precious.
Yes.
And so what do I do with the time that I have? Yeah.
Yes. And you go through seasons with that, because if I look at that with my sister, for example, last year was about life right now means being supported by my friends, feeling connected to community. Like, it was a lot very gentle. This year, life means to me growing a new country, the business, opening a whole new market. It's also being very attuned that it's not static.
Yeah.
So life is, it's tuning into that question constantly. What does life mean to me in this year, and by this circumstance? What am I choosing here?
You know, you saying that, something just dropped in my head, and we've talked a little bit about nuanced things and what's right and wrong and what's black and white. And actually death is very black and white, whereas life isn't. Life isn't at all, is it? And so that's quite interesting. So I just dropped when you said
death is finite. From when you leave your body, you don't have this body anymore.
Yeah. And whatever happens after that, who knows? But,
but we know that much.
But we know that much.
You are not in this body anymore.
You're not alive.
Yeah.
So to speak. Okay. All right. Powerful. Can I, just before we move on, if someone was listening to this podcast today and they are in that place where they're struggling with anorexia, what would you say to them from a place of wisdom, like lived experience, would be a good first step for them to take or to think about where they're at now?
Don't shut out the people that are loving on you.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a very isolating situation to find yourself in, experience. And especially one where if you're practically in that place where you're physically tiny, people look at you.
Yeah.
There's a real physical element to this. They can see that you're not well, and be with those that love you and listen to them, because they're speaking from love.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. Thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for sharing about that as well.
No, of course. Thank you.
Changing gears. You have your own podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So there's one that I launched last year, which now an amazing bunch of women who I work with, love, and some of them mentor, run. That one's called Fireside Whispers.
Right.
So that explores the lives of phenomenal women, most of them entrepreneurs or kick-ass, doing some awesome stuff. Why
women, if you don't mind me asking?
It's the brand.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the brand. It was a celebration of the lives of women.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And the new podcast I have is called Provocateurs.
Interesting.
Which is looking at the edgy, provocative choices, thoughts, belief systems, areas of our life, or places that we want to speak into.
Spicy title.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so that's looking into those sorts of things. Amazing. And
many of whom are entrepreneurs too. You know, rule breakers, risk takers, disruptors.
Yeah.
Disruption and chaos causes new creation.
Absolutely.
And some of us are just wired to see it and cause it. We have to be reined in sometimes. That's for sure. I know in my life, if I think about business, if I was allowed to disrupt consistently, which I do and I would, we would not have a systemized and happy workforce, or a workforce that was congruently working, because you can't constantly disrupt. You need times of restabilization after disruption.
Agreed. What would you say if I said, psychologically speaking, that women embody that well, or relatively better than men can?
I think if you go down the energetics, which I'll speak into rather than psychological, but energetics, chaos, creation is a female energy by the definitions of energetics.
I'm with you.
Where the masculine energy orders, creates structure, boundaries, space, and holds that.
Yep.
So I do agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's not down to men, women.
No, we're talking masculine, feminine energy, which we both have.
Totally.
Just around this table. But every human has that balance and that kind of way of working. And I think with what happens is when in a man, so I'm just talking from a male body or a male existence, when we tap into that chaos and our feminine energy in a way that is immature, so we're looking at the shadow side of that, it creates a toxicity that's not supposed to be there. Whereas if we can get to a mature state of our being in touch with our feminine side, we start to get creative by nature, which is a beautiful thing. So there's a lot there, probably too much for this podcast, but there's a lot there where we need to embrace both sides of that masculine and feminine spirit, and know that they complement and celebrate each other really well, as opposed to being in constant competition, which is a dangerous thing, I think. Totally.
And then I think there's a really practical way of looking at chaos and order. It's like I'm a chaotic person often.
I haven't experienced that from you so far.
But I love that. I'm like, if you watch me in a given day, I'm like on the go, I'm here, I'm there, I can have things thrown at me and I can take it. And I'm, we're in the events world. We deal with thousands of people. It is unpredictable. There is so much that is unordered in what we do. And so everyone that we have on our team has a propensity to be able to deal with that to a level. That's chaos. That doesn't mean that we don't have processes and orders and things and rules.
Yeah.
So both always exist in a given time too.
Yeah, and it's how you operate in that, isn't it? Yeah. No, I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that. Okay. So the podcast is called Provocateurs. All right, we'll have a look out for that. When does that launch?
In the summer.
In the summer, okay.
So we might be in the summer when this is released So in that case, now.
Go and check it out. In fact, what I'll do is when it's out, I'll stick a link in the description below if you're listening on YouTube. Is there an individual or a set of individuals that come to mind as catalysts for your growth in courage?
I'm going to be so cliche here.
Go for it.
I'm going to say my mum.
Mum.
She is. She's a poignant, powerful woman.
What's your mum's name?
Ruth.
Shout out Ruth.
Yeah, she is. And I shared obviously her journey and, with my dad. And she said something to me years ago that's been received in many different ways within myself. But she said to me in a moment of anger, actually, but she said, Sarah, never ever rely on a man. Now, she was saying this in relation to my dad's situation. And what if she hadn't gone to university and had a way to support us and, be that breadwinner and everything for us? And it really stuck with me to be independent, to be a person of courage, to be a person who took risks, who stepped out, who said yes. And it's funny because me and my mum have journeyed such an interesting journey because I'm not my mother's daughter in any way, shape or form, right? So she has really learnt love in new dimensions because of me and acceptance and letting go in so many things. And we've talked a lot. We've done a lot of the work together. And she wrote a card for me actually on my most recent birthday. And it was amazing because she said to me, she's talking on behalf of mum and dad, we love your out of the box thinking, your unpredictability, your spontaneity. We don't know what you're going to do next. Thank you for bringing so much joy into our lives.
Wow, beautiful.
And for the first time I was like, whoa, the very thing that we've argued about for so many years and it's been points of contention sometimes, she now loves and she actually admires and goes, you're great.
Yeah.
And that was amazing. That was a great journey. And I think someone who shows courage for actually be able to, not just go through what she's gone through, but also learn to love something of such difference. And Yeah.
Which has shown some of the things that we've talked about today.
Totally.
One of the ones that comes to mind is detachment. Detaching for what she may have wanted as a parent for you, but accepting who you are for who you are.
Totally.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Go Ruth.
Yeah, she's epic.
Are you guys in each other's worlds a lot? Do you,
Yes.
Yeah,
particularly since my sister passed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've all developed a lot stronger, closer bonds.
Yeah, sure. In terms of self-development, self-love, self-care, what's worked for you? What's been a good thing for you to go, I embrace my fear, I embrace myself, and this is one way I do that that's meaningful?
Not overthinking.
Not overthinking. Great. Yeah.
I love, one of the things that I love about my life is that I've explored different modalities, different trains of thought, different spaces, and that can produce you too much knowledge and too many thoughts and too many feelings, because it could be this or it could be that or it could be this or it could be that. Like, confusing.
Yeah. And paralyzing.
Sometimes it's easier to have just stayed in one camp, stayed in one ballpark, because you're like, well, it was just all these things and then we're fine and we just plod along in that place. And so therefore not thinking, not overthinking, just focus on the next action to take, and lead people in action, and less in assumption. So a dear mentor and friend of mine said, assume nothing and confirm everything. Favorite quote, favorite rule. The only rule I probably live by: assume nothing and confirm everything. Because we live in assumption. Yeah. And that assumption is built by feeling and thought.
Beautiful. All right, Sarah, it's been a great conversation. Any other takeaway points that you'd like to throw out there in the realm of going in courage before we wrap up for today?
In the words of Nike, just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Okay, you're going to get a collaborative, endorsement for saying that from Nike.
Yeah. Good. That'd be good for the podcast.
It'd be great for the podcast.
Get sponsorship there. Yeah, slide in.
Definitely. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast.
Thank you, Rex.
Before you go, can you let people know how they can connect with you? What's the best place to get hold of you if they wanted to see what kind of services you offer, etc., etc.?
Yeah, so Instagram is my preferred point of connection. So Sarah.Moxom, Moxom. I'm sure you'll put it in the
I'll put it up.
notes, and we'll put the Provocateurs site and details in there as well.
Okay, excellent. And in terms of your business?
Yeah, so it's called Phoenix Staffing. If anyone's looking for flexible work or knows anyone or needs any flexible staff, sales staff, that sort of stuff, connect with us there. Phoenix Staff UK
based. All right, excellent. And Dubai maybe?
Well, we're Dubai. Sorry, the Instagram is Phoenix Staff UK, but we're in Dubai, we're in Spain, and we're in the UK.
Oh, okay. 3 different countries.
3 different countries,
there you go. All right. And if you're in those countries, say hello.
Yes, please do. Good.
All right. Well, I loved your insights today. I'd love to have you back in the future.
Great.
I'm going to put you on the spot in front of everyone on the camera and say, would you like to come back? It's a formal invitation.
Let's do it.
Excellent. All right. Well, if you've enjoyed this episode today, something out of what we've talked about has resonated with you, or you have a reflection about it and you'd like to reach out to Sarah, you can do so via her Instagram. You can do so with me as well via my Instagram, which is Going Courage. But whatever you're doing, whatever you're struggling with, whatever fear that might be in front of you, our message to you today is to keep moving forward and to go in courage. I'll see you in the next one. Hey, really hope you enjoyed that episode, and I hope there was something there that you can take away and reflect on. If you'd like to continue the conversation, you can do so publicly on YouTube via the comments, or if you prefer to be more private, you can DM me on Instagram, and the handle is @GoEncourage. You can also find links to everything at the website, which is www.goencourage.com. You can find a copy of the Courage Journal, links to TikTok, Instagram, and all the places that you can find Go Encourage online. You can also have a look at the upcoming Go Encourage blog, which is coming soon. So yeah, definitely do check that out. But my encouragement to you is whatever you're doing, whatever you're going through, keep moving forward and to go encourage. I'll see you on the next episode.